Hey, my name is Chris Ward, Assembly member from San Diego, and we are here because Californians today are more vulnerable to digital exploitation than ever before. Our mobile devices, of course, have become inseparable from our daily lives. They're always on and they're always tracking. These devices generate an astonishingly precise map of a lot of our movements, where we go, what we do, and when we do it. And this constant tracking has opened the door to deeply invasive surveillance, often without our knowledge or our consent. Earlier this month, Immigration and Customs Enforcement carried out coordinated raids across Los Angeles, detaining dozens and spreading fear throughout immigrant communities. And in response, thousands of Angelenos took to the streets peacefully exercising their constitutional rights to protest. But today, even that right is under threat. Federal agencies are increasingly turning to powerful digital surveillance tools like geofencing and commercially purchased location data to track, target, and detain individuals. These tactics circumvent court oversight and local privacy laws by using personal data quietly harvested from everyday apps. Advocates warn that instead of warrants, agents are relying on this purchased data to monitor people's whereabouts, especially at sensitive locations. Now, in the past 5 years, the Federal Trade Commission has filed multiple complaints against major location data brokers, including 4 just this year, exposing how they collect and sell billions of your data points, which map people's lives in disturbing detail. Their clients use this data to trace movements to and from deeply sensitive places, medical clinics, domestic violence shelters, religious institutions, welfare offices, LGBTQ spaces, and more. This kind of surveillance doesn't just violate privacy, it puts real lives at risk. It opens the door to stigma, discrimination, and even violence against the most vulnerable among us. That's why today we are fighting for AB 322, the California Location Privacy Act. This bill will place strong, clear restrictions on the collection, use, and sale of precise location data, bringing accountability to a shadowy and a dangerous industry. The FTC has already said that this conduct undermines civil liberties and endangers consumers. But with federal action stalled, it's up for California to lead. AB 322 takes bold, decisive action to protect your privacy, uphold your rights, and ensure that no Californian is tracked or targeted simply for seeking care, attending a protest, or living their truth. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my co-author, our majority leader, Cecilia Aguilar-Curry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm proud to be here standing alongside Assemblymember Ward and our colleagues in support of data privacy. You know, California is a big state. We have a big heart. So that means protecting people. That's not just in their homes or at work, but online and everywhere they go with their phone, whether they are buying a plane ticket or accessing health care. Assemblymember Ward's AB 322 is just good common sense. It says your personal information, where you fly, who you live with, what kind of health care you get shouldn't be sold off to the highest bidder or handed over to an immigration enforcement. We've seen how dangerous this can be. We've gotten reports from data brokers selling airline passengers' data to ICE about people going to the doctor and applying for Medicaid and then worrying that their information could get out and they would and possibly get deported. So, you know, that's not the California we know. That's just not California. Our laws need to reflect our values. AB 322 puts clear rules in place so your data stays safe and private. AB 322 says no more sneaky backroom deals. It builds on the strong privacy protections we've passed in the legislature before. And it says to every Californian, especially our most vulnerable neighbors, we've got your back. I'm proud to support this bill because protecting privacy is about protecting people, and that's what we're here to do. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Mike Fong.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Assemblymember Ward for organizing this press conference and for introducing Assembly Bill 322. My name is Assemblymember Mike Fong, and I'm proud to serve as the chair of the Asian American Pacific Islander Legislative Caucus. And I'm proud to co-author Assembly Bill 322, which will limit the amount of data and duration of geolocation data collection and informs users of the type of data being collected. We know that we're in very challenging times, and just a few weeks ago with the intense ICE raids in Southern California and Los Angeles, and the chaos and disruption being brought to our immigrant communities. This is a challenging time, and I'm extremely disturbed to learn that collecting the data and selling of location data is aiding in these operations. When users agree to share location data, they were doing so for a particular service, not for collection without restrictions, and not for that data to be eventually used in ways that they disagree with. Assembly Bill 322 is a common sense consumer protection and transparency bill that provides basic safeguards so that misuses of our data are prevented. And we need to do that more so in these very challenging times. I'm so grateful again to Senator Chris Ward, to the Majority Leader, to all my colleagues for your leadership and efforts on this, and really look forward to the work ahead on Assembly Bill 322. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite up one of our co-sponsors, Becca Kramer, on behalf of Consumer Reports.
Good morning. My name is Becca Kramer-Matter, and I'm here today on behalf of Consumer Reports. Thank you so much to Assemblymember Ward and his staff and their colleagues for their timeless work to keep this important issue alive. Consumer Reports is proud to co-sponsor AB 322, a bill to enact common sense protections for location information so that we can trust the apps on our phone to deliver the services we ask for without a heavy helping of unwanted tracking and without big tech profiting off of knowing where we are at all times. Over the last decade, a multi-billion-dollar industry has sprung up that centers on the collection and sale of everyday people's comings and goings. And location information is some of the most sensitive forms of personal information that exists. It can tell folks where we worship, who we go to see for doctors, where our family live, where our children are, et cetera, et cetera. So many details about our personal lives that we don't even realize just by carrying our cell phone. Unfortunately, time and again, we've seen how this information can be used against people. In addition to all of the harms named by others this morning, selling and sharing location information enables stalkers, fraudsters, scammers, and predatory pricing tactics. But AB 322 will help protect us from these abusive practices by banning the sale and our location information and by prohibiting big tech from collecting or using our location unless they need to do so to provide the services that we have requested. And this shouldn't be controversial. The weather app on our phones may need to access our location to give us accurate forecasts, but it shouldn't be selling that information to data brokers behind our back, which is why it's unsurprising that as more and more lawmakers across the country have learned about the harms of an unregulated market for location information, we've seen states such as Oregon and Maryland pass legislation similar to AB 322 to provide these protections, and Massachusetts working on similar legislation. Californians deserve no less. Consumer Reports is proud to co-sponsor AB 322, and we look forward to working with the legislature to pass this important and timely bill as soon as possible. Do you want to go next? Okay. I'd like to invite Assemblymember Ortega to come up and speak.
Good morning. Buenos dias. Assemblymember Liz Ortega, representing District 20. It is an honor and privilege to be here today with supporting AB 322. Especially at a moment where we're seeing ICE raids across the state, and we're seeing mothers, fathers, children being kidnapped from the streets of California. And we're seeing more and more of this, not less of it. Right now, a lot of the focus has been in the Los Angeles area, but unfortunately it's spreading across the state. This bill will ensure that our data is protected and that corporations and this government, the federal government, is not using it to weaponize our information to go after our beloved community members and taxpayers. It is for that reason that I'm here to support AB 322.
Next, I'd like to invite up Mariko Yoshihara on behalf of Cited.
Thank you. Good morning, Mariko Yoshihara, Senior Policy Advocate for CITED, the California Initiative for Technology and Democracy, a project of California Common Cause. This bill is critically important because protecting location data is not just about our privacy, it's about protecting our democracy. As Assemblymember Ward referenced, just last year, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, filed a complaint against Mobile Wallet, a data broker that used consumers' precise location information to determine sensitive political and religious characteristics about these consumers. According to the complaint, Mobile Wallet created retroactive geofences around the sites of political rallies and protests to create audience segments of the consumers that attended those rallies and protests. They also created geofences around polling places and state capitals to identify devices belonging to consumers who visited those locations, often identifying home addresses of those consumers found within the geofence by tracking where those individuals spent their evenings. To be clear, with very few data points, a person's identity, their daily patterns, their political activity can all be laid bare. And when people fear they're being tracked, they're being watched, they may choose not to attend a protest, to come to the Capitol for a hearing, to exercise their constitutional rights. That fear chills participation, and participation is the cornerstone of a functioning democracy. This is especially dangerous for our marginalized communities who we know are being targeted and surveilled right now. We must ensure that our digital footprints do not become tools of oppression. AB 322 will help ensure the sensitive personal information, where we move, where we spend our time, is kept out of the hands of those who would misuse it. We are proud to sponsor this bill, and we thank Assemblymember Ward for his incredible leadership and commitment to this very important issue. Thank you. And next we have Lon Lay, Policy Advocate with Asian Americans Advancing Justice.
We've already seen what happens when location data is weaponized. In Los Angeles, where our nonprofit is based, entire communities were upended by ICE raids. Flash grenades exploded on the streets as helicopters circled overhead. 700 Marines and 2,000 National Guard troops flooded immigrant communities like Koreatown, Chinatown, and Little Tokyo. These raids and militarized crackdowns on protesters weren't random sweeps. They were guided by surveillance data, often collected without consent and used without due process. The community members who were taken were brought to overcrowded detention centers where people slept on floors, often without sufficient access to food, medical care, or legal support. Many of them are the primary breadwinners for their families. But the harm of digital surveillance doesn't end on concrete floors and locked cells. As someone who has directly worked with survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault, I've seen how quickly a survivor's safety is unraveled by technology. Even if a survivor takes every possible measure to stay hidden, change their name and address, start a new job, enroll their children in a different school, none of these efforts matter if their location data is shared without their knowledge. For survivors, the sale of their location data is more than just an invasion of their privacy. It is a direct threat to their safety and the safety of those around them, because a handful of data points can lead an abuser or a trafficker straight to their door. Protecting data privacy isn't a rejection of technology. It's a call for accountability, because the right to privacy shouldn't end when someone turns on their phone. In a moment of crisis, survivors should have to choose between seeking help and staying hidden. Today, many survivors are avoiding courthouses and medical facilities because they fear that it could lead to detention, deportation, and family separation, all without legal representation. Some are unable to access legal aid due to language barriers, which means they are defenseless in court. As both an advocate and a survivor, I ask you to support AB 322, to stand with survivors, advocates, and other vulnerable community members, including immigrants, students, and the LGBTQ+ individuals in your communities, many of whom are living in fear. Your support would affirm that their lives are worth protecting, their dignity worth defending.
and their futures worth safeguarding. Thank you.
Thank you, Lon. Well, to wrap up sort of the structured part of our presentation, open it up to any press Q&A, I think you can deeply appreciate how intimate and personal this is for any individual here in California to make sure that they are not unjustly tracked, that their information is secure, and that they can go about their lives with freedom in mind, that they can be in our community without unwittingly being subject to geolocation data, their whereabouts being known just because of devices that they have on their person. That I think relates very acutely to the times that we are in right now. This has, however, been a work in progress for many, many months. Along with a lot of my co-authors and co-sponsors, we had started to work on this last fall because we know that the sale of your private information is already occurring. And now, of course, we're in different times where it is being used for different purposes. We had thought forward that this is something that theoretically could be used by the federal government, and it turns out, yes, that's actually happening in real time right now. And so while AB 1355, the original iteration of this, had some variations that got a little bit held up in some of our committees, we felt it was necessary to be able to bring back this work in a new form, working on some of those objections, and to make sure that we get the job done this year and did not have to wait to January to protect your rights, Californians' rights, to be able to move about freely and protect your geolocation information. With that, I'm happy to open up to any press questions for myself or any of our colleagues here.
Assemblyman, you mentioned that this is sort of a reintroduction of a policy that died earlier in the process. Why are you bringing it back now? Why do you feel confident that this version is going to get through? And can you describe what you've changed about it to address some of those concerns you alluded to?
Thank you for the question. So we feel very confident that we can't wait. This is happening real time right now to many individuals and many communities. And so if there is an opportunity for us as legislators to continue to stay on track with existing processes in the legislative calendar, I want to not miss a beat and be able to do that. And we were able to modify from its original form. Instead of issuing or allowing for a private right of action and being able to create an entire new section of law, being able to use existing substance within CCPA and being able to allow for the Attorney General to be able to take action on behalf of an infraction, that is something that I think that we were able to overcome some implementation objections and some of the challenges as we talked to a lot of others that have been involved in the process thus far. So we think we have a more straightforward path that's going to meet less internal objections as we continue to restart the engines and try to get it through all the committees.
I know you guys put a lot of focus on the ICE raids and immigration issues and this reintroduction. I guess, does it feel like there's more of an appetite to tackle immigration issues in the Assembly now? I felt like when I asked about that earlier this year that lawmakers were looking to downplay it or maybe didn't play it up as much in the bills that they had that were focused on protecting data privacy.
I think that there's overwhelming sentiment, obviously not unanimous across all 120 legislators, but overwhelmingly across especially those in the Democratic majority, that we need to be able to make sure that people's civil liberties and rights and our Constitution are upheld, and especially as that is pertaining to the immigrant community, those that have come here to seek a better life for themselves and their families, and they're playing by the rules and trying to uphold their lives through the law and how they see pathways forward. We want to be able to support them to that end. So if there is a counterbalance out there that is using technology or geolocation information or other tactics against them, we find that incredibly offensive. There are, of course, a lot of other layers of conversation around how we are addressing issues around immigration here today, but I think particular to this bill right now, it's just a subset of what we're trying to do here. The idea about selling your private information, your geolocation data, it's broader than just the times that we are in right now, although that is right in front of us and it is really extreme and severe, and we want that addressed as well too. But there's just something a lot more deeper and more generalized that we feel very uncomfortable that private large data brokers would be able to access your information, Californians' information, and be able to use that for whatever purposes. I'd like to add on as well too, we have very strong laws as well that protect local and state public agencies from how they use data, how they acquire your data, how long they can store it, how they must secure it, what they can use it for, all the things. but we don't actually have those laws in place for private transactions, and that's where we're getting here to the heart of what is AB 322 right now. That's also the workaround that the federal government, we were already aware, can be able to exercise, is that by using private third-party middlemen, they'd be able to access your information and not even have to go through state or local law enforcement. Ma'am.
Forgive me if you already mentioned
It's okay, Ashley.
Hi, but I know you said you can't wait on this. And would this come with an urgency clause, or I guess when would people expect this to go?
We're going to start talking to our colleagues and see if we'd be able to meet an urgency threshold. Right now, it is just introduced simply as a majority vote, and so that would not go into effect until January 1. But with our reintroduction right now, we're going to start the conversation up, and if I feel there's a pathway to get a 2/3 vote, you bet I want to be able to accelerate this. Thank you.
What committee does this go to next?
So we're in the Senate. It just actually went into print today. I would presume that the Senate is going to refer it to the Senate Judiciary Committee, but that's not been set in place right now.
So, is it your understanding that ICE or the federal government reaches out to these third parties to request this data or to purchase it? Is that how it works?
Yes, and if any of my colleagues want to be able to speak to some of that information.
Yes, so we know that ICE has contracts with data brokers, and data brokers can be recipients of this information from the folks who collect it directly.
I have a general, how does this work kind of question. I don't know if that's appropriate, man. No.
That's a great question.
Okay,
Yeah.
Does this work in the sense that the resale, that's what, one question of data becomes also restricted? Is it device-orientated? Is it app-orientated? Is it use within the state of California? I trying to get some of that stuff kind of figured out in my head. Just seems like an interesting question at least for me.
So it keeps it very general that says that the sale of geolocation data in California would be prohibited. And that is embedded now through this bill within the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, say Protection Act, but CCPA is the California Consumer Privacy Act. That would be the mechanism to be able to define the sale of geolocation data and basically render the transaction unlawful.
But that means that the sale is only illegal for businesses that operate within California?
Yes, if the transaction, either the seller or the recipient, is in California.
So the seller or recipient, which means that if there was some place in Delaware where they had the ability to be able to get data from people's phones in California, they could still end up selling it to somebody else.
If the phone device was in California, this is the origin, I guess, the pings, the information, the data packets that are coming are from a source here in California, that would be captured under the bill.
What's the most common way that this data is found, aggregated, and is there a is it Apple? Is it apps? Is it Google? Is it what's the most common way that the federal government would be able to get this data from their data?
I'm going to turn it over to one of our co-sponsors to provide you technical detail, but I'll just say, it is a very broad world out there. It could be your Oura Ring. It could be, your phone. It could be anything right now that has got digital connectivity. And so there are ways to be able to sort of access that information, be packaged or repackaged through these large data brokers. And then, the options out there for abuse are pretty wide ranging. But I'll have her elaborate a little more.
Sorry. I would say all of the above. That, in my remarks, it was no accident that I mentioned your weather app should just be collecting your location to provide you accurate weather and not selling information to data brokers. There are reports that multiple weather apps have been collecting this type of information and passing it on. And so it is your apps, it is the platforms underneath them, it is anything, like the member said, that is connected to the internet that can be collecting your location, that it's all part of this ecosystem of selling information to location data brokers.
Yes.
So one thing that was notable about the previous version was how it defined location information, and some folks told me that was interesting how IP addresses was included in that definition. I'm just curious, under this bill, would IP addresses considered location information or is that? I'm not sure. Sorry, it's a bit.
A technical detail I'll have to look into a little more. I don't think so under this bill.
No, and it would not be, the bill as it's in print is not changing the definition in CCPA right now.
Right.
Does this also include anything with automated license plate reader data? The revised version?
There's other work being done in that space. I think
there's the potential.
I think that you could actually draw. It's not so specifically and directly, but I think that you could actually connect those dots there theoretically. Yeah, it's a complicated world out there. With that, I'm happy to be available for any one-on-ones, but I want to thank everybody for their interest. Well, obviously, we've got many steps to go forward for the success of this bill, but ultimately, our interest is protecting Californians and making sure that your privacy is upheld every single day. Thank you very much.